यशोदा नंदन जय व्रजजन रंजन जय जामुन तिरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय जामुना 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 तिरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा हरे रामा 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा हरे रामा 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 हरे हरे जय श्री राधा गिरधारी भगवान की जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की जय श्री गिरी गोवर्धन की जय श्री निताई गौर चंद्र भगवान की जय जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga ki jai. Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Mahavishnu Goswami Namini. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Prasayani Devi Shri Shundari Prasada Kristari. Jai. So we are discussing from the third canto, chapter number 32, entanglement in fruitive activities, and we are on verse number 26. Gnana matram param brahma paramatmeshwarah puman drushi adibhi pruthag bhave bhagavaneka iyate gnana matram param brahma paramatmeshwarah puman drusyadibhi pruthag bhave Bhagavaneka iyate gnanamatram param brahma paramatmeshwarah puman drusyadibhi पृथग भावे भगवानेक ईयते Word to word synonyms, translations and purport by Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gnana, knowledge. Matram, only. Param, transcendental. Brahma, Brahman. Parama Atma, Parama Atma. Ishvaraha, the controller. Puman, super soul. Drushi Adibhihi, by philosophical research and other processes. Pruthak Bhavaihi, according to different processes of understanding. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ekaha, alone. Iyate, is perceived. So knowledge, only, transcendental. Brahman, Paramatma, the controller. Super soul, by philosophical research and other processes, according to different processes of understanding, the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is perceived. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge. But according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar. Jai Purport. The word Drushi Adibhihi is significant. According to Jiva Goswami, Drushi means Gnan, philosophical research. By different processes of philosophical research under different concepts, such as the process of Gnana Yoga, the same Bhagavan or Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood as impersonal Brahman. Similarly, by the threefold yoga system, he appears as the Paramatma. But in pure Krishna consciousness or knowledge in purity, when one tries to understand the absolute truth, one realizes him as the Supreme Person. The transcendence is realized simply on the basis of knowledge. The words used here, Paramatmeshwaraha, Puman, are all transcendental, and they refer to Super Soul. Super Soul is also described as Purusha, but the word Bhagavan directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of six opulences: wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. He is the personality of Godhead in different spiritual skies. The various descriptions of Paramatma, Ishvara, and Puman indicate that the expansions of the Supreme Godhead are unlimited. Ultimately, to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to accept Bhakti Yoga. By executing Gnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, one has to eventually approach the Bhakti Yoga platform. And then Paramatma, Ishvara, Puman, etc. are all clearly understood. It is recommended in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that whether one is a devotee or fruitive actor or liberationist, if he is intelligent enough, he should engage himself with all seriousness in the process of devotional service. It is also explained that whatever one desires, which is obtainable by fruitive activities, even if one wants to be elevated to higher planets, can be achieved simply by execution of devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences, He can bestow only any one of them upon the worshipper. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals Himself to different thinkers as the same person or impersonal Brahman or Paramatma. Impersonalists merge into the impersonal Brahman, but that is not achieved by worshipping the impersonal Brahman. If one takes to devotional service and at the same time desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord, he can achieve that. If someone desires at all to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he has to execute devotional service. The devotee can see the Supreme Lord face to face, but the Gnani, the empiric philosopher, or yogi cannot. They cannot be elevated to the positions of associates of the Lord. There is no evidence in the scriptures stating that by cultivating knowledge or worshipping the impersonal Brahman, one can become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor by executing the yogic principles can one become an associate of the Supreme Godhead. Impersonal Brahman, being formless, is described as adrushya because the impersonal effulgence of Brahma Jyoti covers the face of the Supreme Lord. Some yogis see the 400 Vishnu sitting within the heart, and therefore, in their case, also the Supreme Lord is invisible. Only for the devotees is the Lord visible. Here the statement Drushi Adibhihi is significant. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is both visible, invisible and visible, there are different features of the Lord. The Paramatma feature and Brahman feature are invisible, but the Bhagavan feature is visible. In the Vishnu Purana, this fact is very nicely explained. The universal form of the Lord and the formless Brahman effulgence of the Lord, being invisible, are inferior features. The concept of the universal form is material, and the concept of impersonal Brahman is spiritual. But the highest spiritual understanding is a personality of Godhead. The Vishnu Puran states, Vishnur Brahma Swarupena Swayam Eva Vyavasthitaha. Brahman's real feature is Vishnu, or the Supreme Brahman is Vishnu. Swayam Eva, that is his personal feature. The supreme spiritual conception is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatvana Nivartante Tad Dhama Paramam Mama. That specific abode called Param Mama is the place from which once one attains it, one does not return to this miserable conditional life. Every place, every space, and everything belongs to Vishnu. But where he personally lives is Tad Dhama Paramam, his supreme abode. One has to make one's destination the supreme abode of the Lord. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada has given a very long purport, full of punches. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge. But according to the different processes of understanding, He appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar. Jnana matram param brahma Paramatmeshwarah puman drushi adibhihi pruthak bhaver bhagavaneka iyate. So this particular verse is a fundamental verse for any transcendentalist's progress in his understanding and realizing of the absolute truth. So this verse explains that process. He says that Bhagavan Eka Iyate. Bhagavan means the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Eka means alone or one. Iyate means is perceived. So the absolute truth or Bhagavan is one, but he is perceived in three different ways. One is that of impersonal Brahman, second that of Paramatma, and third is Bhagavan. Now, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have studied, I think last year or the year before, in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, chapter number 2, this differentiation and this different understanding of God is given. It says, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavana iti shabdayate. Tattva vidas. Vadanti Tattva-vidas. Tattva-vidas meaning, tattva means truth, the absolute truth. And vidas meaning those who see the absolute truth. That means those who have realized God, they say, Srimad Bhagavatam mentions this, they say, what do they say? That the same absolute truth can be perceived in three different ways. First is the Brahman realization, the Paramatma realization or Super Soul realization. The third is Bhagavan realization. Now, in this particular purport of the current discussion, Srila Prabhupada gives different definitions of this and differentiation of this. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that those people who find it very hard to understand God and realize God, because God is adrushya, cannot be seen. So for them, it is very hard, for many people, it is very hard to understand and appreciate God and His qualities. So that is the reason why they are encouraged to see God in His universal form. Just like in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna showed His universal form to Arjuna, his friend. Now the universal form is a very basic form of realizing God and seeing God. First seeing, perceiving, and then realizing. These two things. Perceiving and realizing. Very basic concept. And Arjuna had to be given special eyes to see Krishna in His universal form. These eyes were not special spiritual eyes. No. Because the universal form of the Lord is inferior form of the Lord, Arjuna had to be given those eyes by which he can perceive the inferior nature of Krishna. Otherwise, Arjuna was very accustomed to seeing Krishna in his transcendental form. You see? So the universal form is a form in which a person is encouraged to see, hey, this material world which you see has come from the supreme absolute truth. The trees which you see, the plants that you see around in this nature, in so many different planets of this universe, these are the bodily hairs of the universal form of the Lord. The clouds that you see, they are hair on his head. Of course, New Zealand will be becoming prominent in it, Aotearoa, land of long white clouds. So they say, see the hair of the Lord as you perceive, as you see the clouds in the sky. And they say that they are trained to perceive that the rivers, the lakes that you see, and the rivers that you see flowing on land, they are all the veins of the body of the universal form. Like this, they are encouraged to understand that the Supreme Absolute Truth has a form. And to understand the Supreme Absolute Truth, they are given this aspect. Although formless, but this is how the training begins. Now, from this, the growth of the living being, spiritual progress, in the second part of the growth is where they are trained to see the impersonal Brahman. The impersonal Brahman consists of the body rays coming from Krishna, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets. So from the personal body rays of Krishna, the Vaikuntha planets are lighted, and it is from the Vaikuntha planets which are lighted that this light actually is the Brahma Jyoti, which is beyond Vaikuntha planets, not yet Vaikuntha planets, but in material and spiritual world. And there is nothingness there, only eternity. And just like the sun rays are made up of many molecules and particles, the Vaikuntha planets, the Brahman planets, the Brahman, are made up of atomic particles, spirit souls, eternally existing spirit souls. And this is where the impersonalists want to merge with the Brahman, thinking that is Brahman, which are made up of atomic particles of all spirit souls, jivas, that is absolute. And one of them comes and takes and becomes God when they come to the material world. This is how their thinking goes. It is this realization of Brahman where there is nothingness, and in the spirit soul only eternity exists. But as we understand that the spirit soul is made up of three elements: eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And because knowledge and bliss are not utilized when one attains the Brahman realization, they tend to fall down, padanti adha. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi patistaham. He says, this Brahman, patistha, I am the basis of the Brahman. Now, as one progresses from the Brahman, from the universal form of perceiving God to the Brahman realization, perceiving God, then the third realization, where one is advanced, that realization is the Paramatma realization or the Super Soul realization. Now, the Super Soul realization is where Krishna consciousness can begin. Krishna also mentions about the Super Soul, his form as a Super Soul, in the Bhagavad Gita many times. Sarvasa chaham hrudi sannivishto matah smritir gnanam apohanam cha. Sarvasa chaham hrudi sannivishto. I am situated in every living being's heart as the Super Soul. So, the Super Soul realization is when one's Krishna consciousness begins. But here Srila Prabhupada mentions that even the Super Soul realization is actually the God is not visible to you. How is that? When we say that Krishna consciousness begins from Super Soul realization, it's higher than the Brahman realization. And it is stated that Prabhupada also mentions this, that Brahman, the Bhagavan realization is the topmost realization. So why is Super Soul realization called inferior realization? It has to be understood and to be digested. Every one of us, most of us go through these three realizations in one's life. And then one is firmly fixed in the Bhagavan realization. The answer is this, that the Super Soul in the Brahman realization, there's only impersonalism. There's nothing there. Super Soul realization is where there is Paramatma, and this Paramatma form is a Vasudeva form. Bahunam janmanam ante gnanvan mam prapadyante. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatmasu durlabha. He says after many, many births, one who is in knowledge accepts me, Krishna says, as the Supreme Absolute Truth, the cause of all causes, as Vasudeva. Now why did he call himself Vasudeva? And why the super soul, although it is called Vasudev, with the four-handed Vishnu, Vasudev form, it is partial realization of God. The answer is this, is given in the third canto, I think 17th or 19th chapter. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains this, that the Vasudev realization or the super soul realization is where it is Param Satya. Krishna is Param Satya, Supreme Absolute Truth, without his energies. This is the most important point. So as the super soul, Vasudeva, he is standing alone without his energies. And energies are with Krishna only in his Bhagavan realization. That's why called Bhagavan means six opulences. As Srila Prabhupada explains this: full knowledge, full bliss, full renunciation, full strength, full fame, full beauty. So when Krishna is with his full opulence and all his energies, that's when one can have personal relationship with him. Otherwise, as in the Sati Yuga and other ages, sages would sit and meditate for thousands and thousands of years, trying to find out and associate with, trying to find out the Paramatma or the super soul in the heart. It is so hard a process, so hard. So there's a great benediction in the Kali Yuga where Krishna himself came, and he mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. Paritranaya sadhunam vinayashaya dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He said, I come for two reasons. Paritranaya sadhunam, to give special benediction to my devotees. Vinashaya dushkritam, to destroy my enemies, the demons, and giving them mercy also by destroying them, killing them. They go back to Godhead too. Dharma samsthapanarthaya, to re-establish religion, I come millennium after millennium. So in Kali Yuga, Krishna comes in his personal form as Krishna, Srimati Vasudeva, and perform those activities which he is performing in Golok Vrindavan, the topmost planet in the Vaikuntha planets, along with his associates and his energies, Radhika Rani, the Gopis, the Gopas, everyone. And the same thing which he does in the spiritual world, in Golok Vrindavan, he performs on earthly planet, in Vrindavan, in India. He chooses to come there, in India, in Vrindavan. That's where Vrindavan is manifested. Because Krishna doesn't go anywhere outside of his loved place. So when he has to come on earth, he comes to the place where he chooses to, where he creates his Vrindavan. And that is Vrindavan, which is a replica of Golok Vrindavan. And he comes with his energies. So this is how those sadhu, paritranaya sadhunam, so those devotees of the Lord get attracted by his activities. So Krishna's activities in Vrindavan are quite different to that of Vishnu's, who's in the spiritual world. And it is very easy to be attracted to the pastimes of Krishna, his leelas, so that we will get the urge to say, hey, it is so nice how Krishna behaves with his friends, with his girlfriends, with his wives, with his pets, with birds, with his monkeys. How beautifully he decorates himself with the Vajjayanti Mala garland. How beautifully he dresses. I could be any one of them. I would like to go there in Golok Vrindavan. This is how he inspires living beings who are favorably trying to associate with him, finding out God, the supreme absolute truth. So he encourages this with his rasa dance. And that is where he encourages his devotees to say, come with me. This is what we are supposed to do. This is what you are meant to do. Eternally, we can be happy with me in my abode, not in this material world. So this is the reason why Bhagavan realization, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, is the only realization in which a devotee can come face to face with Krishna, and Krishna talks to you, you talk to Krishna. Paramatma also speaks, but because it has to be perceived, Paramatma as Vasudeva realization has to be perceived in the heart. It's so hard. But one has to also understand Krishna is Vasudeva in the heart. Then one sees the whole complete picture. So these three realizations have to be distinctly understood by a devotee philosopher. And when one sees this realization distinctly understood and realizes this and understands this distinctly, one is then firmly fixed in his aspect of Bhagavan, where he is with all six opulences. Bhaga means opulences, and Van means one who possesses. So one who possesses these six opulences is Bhagavan. That is where this Bhagavan realization is topmost. And even in Srimad Bhagavatam, the same Bhagavan realization comes as complete in the 10th canto. Not before that. Before that, the realizations are that of Vishnu and of different ages, earlier ages. So, as in earlier ages, Krishna was not so easily available in his Vrindavan form with Vrindavan pastimes. That is why those ages, it is very hard to become God realized. Although it is very favorable, the circumstances are very favorable to become God conscious, but it was very hard to perceive God. That's why the length of the life was very, very long, 100,000 years, 10,000 years. And even in 100,000 years, people had to meditate for 60,000 years to realize God. And Kali Yuga, maximum is 100. Hardly anybody lives 100 years. It's 60, 70 years, 80 years maximum. Then one dies. So in this short span of time, our dear Lord Krishna, being very merciful to us, He easily manifests Himself so that we can easily approach Him in His Vrindavan pastimes. And the same way, He Himself came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to help us even more. He came as a devotee. He said, "This is how you love me." Before that, Krishna says, "This is why you love me, because I'm God." Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "This is why you love me, because I'm God." And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna says, "This is how you love me as a devotee." And not only that, Krishna keeps sending his important personalities like Lord Jesus the Christ, whose appearance is just about to come now, as the best son, to teach everyone and show everyone the way back to God, back to Krishna. As Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, as his best messenger. And as if Srila Prabhupada, his Senapati Bhakta, who could give us this whole Vrindavan manifestation of Krishna to the whole world. So much Srila Prabhupada has done, which nobody has done. When we realize these three forms of Krishna, we can experience these three forms, and that the topmost is Bhagavan and why is Bhagavan. So that is the reason why we must spend some time, quality time, with Srila Prabhupada's books, where Srila Prabhupada are already associating with us, teaching us, talking to us with these different aspects of his philosophy. And this would ultimately help our chanting, which is nothing but only the expression of our love for God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the translation again, the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge. But according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as an impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as a Purusha avatar. This is what I understood from this verse today. Please, all of you are very qualified devotees. Would you like to share your realizations, please? Feel free. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you very much. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Chanda Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.